After so many years, how did I hate it? Trapped by fear. I'm in a box. I've got no place to go.
Peace, greetings. Welcome again to the Northeast Political Prisoner Coalition podcast. I'm Brother Frank and I'm with my brother
Abdul Haq Islam.
This episode, we're focusing on the parole board and what it's supposed to mean, ideally and realistically. Because when we look at our brothers, Rochelle McGee, and we look at our brother and elder, Sundiata Akoli, and we look at the decades that they have been incarcerated for, we want to examine and look at the concept of a correctional facility. If it's a correctional facility and it's the process of correction, so-called, taking place, then how long does it take for them to be corrected? So in our examination, we want to look at the parole board. So what I did in preparation for this episode is I went to the website that has the parole board information on it. This is at ny.gov.mt. doccs.ny.gov. And according to this website, it says it's the overall of the parole board. It says the board of parole is an independent body and the sole entity that considers and determines parole eligibility, sets conditions of release, and revokes parole when the conditions are violated. Parole is discretionary release from prison that enables the former offender to serve the remainder of their sentence in the community, as long as the terms of conditions set by the New York State Board of Parole are met, making release determinations. The parole board determines which incarcerated individuals serving indeterminate sentences in state prison may be released to community supervision. Executive Law Section 259 I-2A requires the parole board to personally interview incarcerated individuals eligible for release. The parole board panel, generally comprised of 2 or 3 members, reviews the incarcerated individual's file, letters in support of or opposition to release, and recommendations from district attorneys, sentencing courts, and defense attorneys who represented them at the time of the offense to determine release. Incarcerated individuals do not have the right to counsel at release interviews. Conditions of release. The board sets conditions of release for incarcerated individuals released to community supervision. The board also sets release conditions for those conditionally released to community supervision by statute who have earned time off the maximum sentence for good behavior. Sentencing reforms enacted in 1995 and 1998 changed sentences for violent felony offenders. Violent offenders now receive determinate prison sentences, which are definite terms that are not subject to review by the parole board. For example, a sentence of 6 years is determinate because the individual will spend no more than 6 years incarcerated, minus time off for good behavior in certain instances. Individuals with determinate sentences are released to community supervision without appearing before the parole board for release consideration, but the parole board still imposes conditions of release for them. Once the individual is rendered, the parole officer may also set conditions. I just wanted to give our viewers the idea of how this concept of parole board is being conducted. And we have to look at our role in this process, because there are letters of support that the parole board is supposed to take into consideration. I know me personally, when Rochelle McGee was up for parole, they wrote me back. They thanked me for my input. I wrote them back because I found out that he was denied parole. I wanted to know why he was denied parole. I think if we look at the parole board, they have to explain to the community, explain to the taxpayers, explain to the working class people that they're supposed to provide answers for, because they are supposedly doing this in our interest, that why is somebody being denied parole? Because these brothers, these freedom fighters, these political prisoners have done decades in prison and still are being denied. And they're up there in age, because the reason they want them to die in prison, they want to discourage anybody from standing up to this system. I think it's very important that we get involved. It's very important that we make demands about a decision being made, because we, the people, the community that's going to embrace these elders, these freedom fighters, these political prisoners when they come home, we want to be prepared for them. We want to know what's taking the parole board so long to release them. What are they trying to do? So that's my position. That's my point. Abdul Haq Islam.
Peace and love, brothers and sisters. In the white supremacist myth of what a parole board is supposed to do in terms of benefiting the people, these are the things that the brother just read. But the reality of the system is that the parole board is part of the coercive forces that historically always move the masses to revolution. The coercive forces of police, armies, prisons, and courts. These are the things which are weapons that the enemy, who thrives on murder, a bloodthirsty, blood drinking system. You understand? A parole board, we're in a system that has strategically terrorized humanity, mass murder, torture, dehumanization. You understand? With the intent of producing crawling worms who will be submissive. You understand? Who will be, lackeys for the system. To take their manhood and their womanhood. You understand? To mass produce cowards. This is what the terror of the system, you understand, aims, to produce, you understand, low life type individuals who will never stand up for anything, So we are saying that as part of resistance and understanding historically, what these forces perpetuate, that the demand to free our political prisoners is a form of resistance against this evil devil system, So the parole board is, functions in what I refer to in making judgments of the HAQQ. When we read the 4th chapter of the Quran, verse 60, it talks about the judgments of the HAQQ. And the judgments of the HAQQ refer to legislation, court decisions, and things of that nature, and the judgments of the parole board fall within that. The judgments of the parole board, you understand, serve that which they are a part of, you understand, which means they are that. They are part of a system, a blood drinking system, a terroristic system, an evil system, you understand? And so we have to see the parole board as that, so when they do not allow our political prisoners to come home, it has to produce an outrage in the mass. So let me read this verse for you, brothers and sisters, about the judgment of the HAQQ. Have you not turned your vision to those who declare that they believe in the revelation that has come to you and those before you? Their real wish is to resort together for the judgment in their disputes to the HAQQ, which is the devil, though they were ordered to reject him, but Satan's wish is to lead them away, far away from the right. So, this idealized, propaganda of what this body is supposed to serve, reality, a lot of us have been touched by the parole board. We know what the parole board is. You understand what I'm saying? The other day we had a party at Sister's place, a white party, and I was clowning around, and part of my dance step was how people tap dance when they go into the parole board. You dig? And, really that's what's happening. I'm not going to say who the brother is, but one day I was going to the parole board. There was a brother on the bench with me. He had his kufi on his head, and before he walked in the parole board, he took off his kufi, put it in his back pocket, and then came out of the parole board. You understand? When I went to the parole board, I told him, "Look, man, I'm trying to sleep. Why y'all bothering me? I know y'all gonna hit me, man. I'm trying to give me some rest. Just quit bothering me, man." You dig? And so they said, "You gotta hit. We hit you." I said, "See you in the whirlwind." So, these are the things which must spur us on to action. You understand? Propaganda versus real, and the coercive system, the coercive instruments of the system. You understand? We just had an anniversary of an expression, an example of what that is. Today is September 14th. On September 13th, the coercive forces of the system committed one of the biggest massacres in American history. The biggest massacre was Tulsa, in Attica. In 1971, they murdered 37 prisoners. You understand what I'm saying? this was an example of the viciousness of the system, the murderousness of this system. And, this is one of the reasons why we got to have freedom fighters, and in a system like that, it's inevitable that when someone rises up and become a freedom fighter, they're going to be targeted. You understand? They're going to be punished for it. And this is what happened with our freedom fighters. In a system like that, we got to have freedom fighters. This is necessary as the oxygen you breathe, brothers and sisters. So the acts of these coercive forces is like a suffocating force. So we must fight for our survival, and part of that fight is to rise up against these evil forces, these instruments of the HAQQ. The Quran says that those who believe fight for God, while those who disbelieve fight for HAQQ. So the enemy of humanity has gone around the world fighting for HAQQ, wiping out entire populations. That is their history. So since we are a couple of days away from 9/11, and never, ever, ever will you hear the mass media talk about why did 9/11 happen. The people who did 9/11, they say the reason they did it, one was because of the sanctions on Iraq, which murdered more children than any other act in the history of the world. 500,000 babies murdered by sanctions in Iraq. They talked about Somalia. They talked about Saudi Arabia, where the Americans were in there stealing oil, becoming extremely rich. He said this was the reason. You understand? So, while, blowing up civilians, is wrong. It is entirely wrong. You understand? But they never talk about what made it happen. Why did it happen? I say, brothers and sisters, you should look up online, why did 9/11 happen? And I wrote a little poem, and I entitled it 9/10. 9/10 is the day before 9/11, and so 9/10 is a day that we can talk about, the crimes that the U.S. has committed. I called it 9/10 because that's a sister named Tahira's birthday. This is a bad, 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 strong sister. You understand? This is a sister who was running for office and who can actualize what Malcolm talked about controlling the politics in your community. I tried to show this sister how to throw a left hook, and this sister throw about 30 punches at me. You want it, huh? Yeah, so this is a bad, bad, bad sister. So I named this poem 9/10. So I'm going to read you. I just started the poem, so I'm going to read you a few excerpts from it. All right? The name of the poem is September the 10th. Why did 9/11 happen? Why? That is the most easily unanswered question in history. Classrooms, bar rooms, churches, media, nut houses, the United Nations, and the far right wing, holier than y'all evangelical hypocrite conversations. Rednecks and Negroes agree that Madeleine Albright was right, that the 500,000 murdered babies is worth the price. They say it's worth blowing babies away for a 15-cent raise in their hourly pay. Orangutans can understand what no racist American can when they see footage of bombed out villages in Iraq and Afghanistan. They cannot read the future terrorists in the eye, crying eyes and outrageous faces in them bombed out empty places. Why is it not asked by coons who fight for an enemy white supremacy that violated worldwide and bombed and slaughtered all their rights? The bomb brains contain a meaning of manhood based on them bombing dark races for the racists who bomb them. Let's set a date every year. The world can remember America's genocides and infanticides. How about the 12th of September? Okay, so that's a poem I just started, and I'm going to work on it some more, and it's saying that, we need to really read the history of these folks, and we can understand and appreciate why we have to have freedom fighters, the value of our freedom fighters. You understand? So we cannot fall for the propaganda of the enemy. You know, I mentioned once before that the author of the book Propaganda, Edward Bernays, said that propaganda can no longer be based on uh, a logical argument, you understand, backed by evidence. That propaganda must appeal to the rational desires of a people. So that's what that's what they feed us, you understand, in order to get over with us and continue to rip, rob, and steal and plunder from us. You understand what I'm saying? So example of propaganda, I'm gonna ask y'all a question, you know, related to propaganda. Who in the history of the United States ordered the biggest mass lynching in the history of the United States? Anybody know? I'm going to tell you right now who it was. Here we go. Getting ready for you. Tell you who it was. Here, your homeboy. See him? See your homeboy there? Abe Lincoln, spelled APELINCOLN. Ordered the lynching of 38 Indians. You know, him and those who they claim fought in the Civil War for the rights of black people. You know, he was part of the Indian War, which murdered more than 100 million Native Americans. You understand? They said it was no longer feasible, slavery was no longer feasible, that the move now was west, to take the west. And in that march, you understand, they committed a mass genocide, infanticide. You understand? And Abe Lincoln was down and dirty with it. And them soldiers who fought in the Civil War fought in the Indian War, you know, fought a racist war. And they said it was more important to claim the West as a white man's country. You understand? That is the history of the United States, and the great majority of them got down and dirty with it. You understand? So this is the nature of who we're dealing with, brothers and sisters. So we got to be crystal clear that in dealing with an evil enemy like this, you understand, that we need freedom fighters, and we must demand that our freedom fighters must be set free. And a critical aspect of that uprising is for us to demand the freedom of our political prisoners of war.
Absolutely. Those are some valid points, very important points, because as our children as start this school year, they have to have a critical analysis of their reality. They have to be able to ask questions based on what they're being taught at home, right? And then from home, when they go into the school, then they are able to determine what's truth and what's not. And that's why at home we have to teach our children about political prisoners. If you see us in Queensbridge, you'll see us with the banner that we have here. Don't let political prisoners die in prison. We bring that to the community of Queensbridge because we want them to know that this idea is very important, and it needs to be brought right to your community so you can have discussions in your household about political prisoners. If you look at the Twitter, uh, the image that's going down underneath the screen, it says "right to a political prisoner," right? Because we want people to take the time out, write a paragraph, write a page, whatever you can do. Introduce yourself to a political prisoner and allow that political prisoner to respond to you, and you build a relationship. I know when I wrote to Sundiata Akoli and he wrote me back and he thanked me for being involved, that really touched me personally. And I said that I have to do more. And then with the passing of Romaine Chips Fitzgerald, I told myself that that has to be the last political prisoner that dies in prison, because they did as much as they could for us. And now that they captured, because we've been in this war for some time since the first African was brought here to be the workforce, to force to be the workforce. We have to look at that from that perspective and decide that we're going to take a position, decide that we're going to make sure that we continue this fight to make sure that oppression is eliminated from our world and our children don't inherit our problems because we neglected to take responsibility. So if this is your first time reviewing our podcast, please check our YouTube channel at N.E.P.P.C. That's the YouTube channel. Subscribe, share it, encourage others to subscribe. I think if 10 people encourage 10 people to subscribe to the channel, we can build up an audience, a viewership, and we could take it from there, and we could add momentum to the political prisoner work, because it's going to require everybody, in particular people of different faiths, of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, get involved. We laid out the parole board, right? The parole board have to answer to the community. We want you to respond to our question. Why did you make the decision to deny Ruchell McGee parole? Why did you deny Sundiata Acoli parole? They're getting numbers of letters in favor of them being released. What is your agenda? Life expectancy is but so many years, and these brothers have surpassed life expectancy. They don't have that many more years left, and that's just the reality. We want to get them home. We don't want them to die in prison. So we encourage those who are viewing to internalize that idea of dying in prison, right? What does that do not only to the individual but the family of the individual? So many moments that they are away from their family, so much time, and I think that for them not to have that loved one there to take care of that loved one, because these political prisoners, they have a number of ailments. They need that loving care from their family. They need to look into the baby's eyes and get that inspiration to continue fighting. When you came home from doing your sentence, and when you seen the people, how did that make you feel? Because I think the viewers need to know that.
Well, it was. I mean, man, look here. When you first get out of prison that day, that's a beautiful feeling, man. And to see the people, for you've been away years and years and years from your folks. You understand, from the folks, and to see the people again and interact with them. To see children. You don't see children in prison. You see a bunch of hard-legged dudes all day long, you understand what I'm saying, with 5 o'clock shadows on their face, you understand, beards, and, seeing dudes all day long, get tired of that, So it's all, so when you come home, it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. And, our brothers on lockdown need to come home. Our people on lockdown need to come home, you understand, and to get with this humanity, this the beautiful brothers and sisters out here in the street, they deserve to be free, and in the context of what we're talking about a system that wants to tell us, you understand, to turn our backs on our political prisoners. This is also a system that recently the corporations backed different warlords who from 1996 to today have murdered 12 million people in the Congo, for the rich resources. You understand? A system that murdered Patrice Lumumba because he said that the vast riches of the Congo must serve the people of the Congo. They took him out. President Dwight D. Eisenhower ordered overthrow of his regime, and Larry Devlin of the CIA carried out the order, which resulted in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. United States supported South Africa, the racist apartheid regime of South Africa. The U.S. supported that. So these are the people, these are the bloodsuckers who are telling you that our political prisoners are criminals, when our political prisoners stood up against the criminals. In Palestine, 1948, British supported in Palestine the removal of 700,000 in Palestine, and the U.S. supports this racist Zionist regime today. So these are the bloodsuckers. These are the enemies. This is a devilish system, brothers and sisters. They want to pretend that they godly and that they holier than y'all, holier than thou, and all that. But these same people that call themselves ultra religious support the murder of babies all over the world, for rich resources, supported the genocide, the infanticide of 500,000 babies for oil in Iraq. These are the criminals, the evil ones, you understand, who want to tell us what to do, who want to make us hear and obey, who give us this false idealism. The brother just mentioned our children and the education of our children. You understand? There is a big hoopla right now. You understand? These reactionaries are going nuts, having nervous breakdowns about what our children are being taught, and they want to dictate what our babies are taught. You understand? They don't want our babies to know the truth and the reality of what this is. You understand? They talk about critical racism. They so dumb that they don't even know that critical racism is not even taught to children in elementary school. Critical racism is taught to legal students in college. You understand? That's what critical racism is. But you have these reactionaries in different states who are really pushing, you understand, that our children do not know the reality of what this system is. But there are books right. There's one book right now I'm reading right now, The Broken Heart of America. It gives a history of how the majority of the folks in this country, you understand, supported white supremacy and wiping out black people, enslaving black people, moving westward, and murdering every so-called Indian in sight, wiping them all out, going around the world and wiping out entire populations. You understand what I'm saying? So, this is what we're dealing with. In Zimbabwe right now, there's a good example. The people of Zimbabwe are inspiring our folks all around the world by standing up, controlling their natural resources, controlling the government, you understand, controlling everything, being very, very inspirational, So these type of folks are who our revolutionaries are, a great inspiration. When you're around these revolutionaries, they inspire you. You feel pride. You feel strength inside. You understand? So our people need this type of inspiration, especially in this time when people like the Proud Boys is on the move. The Proud Boys this coming Saturday the 18th plan to go to Washington, D.C. and to dog and humiliate the Black City, Chocolate City. They plan to go there and dog you and humiliate you. You understand what I'm saying? So in this time when the Trump ideas is still, you understand, in circulation in the system, you understand, we need the inspiration that our political people, the foremost, those who never bend, never bowed, you understand, who stood proud, who give us strength, who give us inspiration. They need to be home. So support our political prisoners. And I want to mention again what I mentioned last time, that there is a special coming on, the Spirit of Mandela, the tribunal by the Spirit of Mandela, that puts this system on trial, that we have witnesses and legal people that talk about all the crimes of this system, you understand, and it's putting it out there, So, I want to mention that again. That's coming up on the 22nd, the Spirit of Mandela tribunal. So share that everywhere, brothers and sisters. Free all political prisoners and prisoners of war. Free them all.
Well said, to the point. The information is given to you. Please like, please share this episode. Before we sound off, we just want to give you that very important message from our brother, Killer Mike.
Right on.
Time that you guys organize a fund to set aside to help people who sacrifice for our freedom. Meaning, every time something happens, I hear this. Why don't the gang bangers jump up and do something for it? Why don't you kill them? You kill each other. And I say to myself, When is the last time you sent money to Assata Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Matulu Shakur? When is the last time you sent money to Mumia Abu Jamal or Larry Hoover or Jeff Ford or Leonard Peltier? When is the last time you have made it your business to send money to a revolutionary or a hoodlum that has helped us? And until we start to do that, how can we ask these young men to be warriors? Because if they do it in the name of the hood, at least the hood gonna honor their name always. At least the hood gonna make sure at least their children got something, or their mama's house is looked after. As a community, if we're going to ask people to bungee jump for us with no cord, be prepared to take care of them when they get a life sentence. Be prepared to look after their families. See, I don't mind the work getting done, but let's take care of the workers. Let's stop asking more out of people than we would do for ourselves. So what I'd like to see, my dream thing, is to see 1 million people from the culture dedicate $10 a month. That's $10 million a month, $120 million a year toward taking care of civil rights leaders who have worked on our behalf and are elderly now and don't have to take care of themselves, like Rosa Parks, whose rent was paid by the owner of Little Caesars Pizza. We should have had a fund to make sure that she never had to worry about that again in her life. We should have a fund that makes sure money makes it to Assata Shakur and Matulu Shakur has legal representation and food, and Leonard Peltier, who has diabetes in jail, can get insulin taken care of. And until we start doing it, $10 a month is about what you pay on a couple fast food restaurant business. So if 1 million of us do that for the rest of our life, look at how well we'll be taking care of the people that we're asking to sacrifice on our behalf.
I agree. And recently,
What's the call?
Free them all.
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 What's the call?